Okay, here we go. This is part 5, week 3 for work. Getting into childcare worker solutions. Good bet that this will be the case that we'll be doing on the midterm will be around childcare. That's one of the few things we get into in the first part of the class. So it's good to know all these potential solutions for the potential problems that you'll see around childcare related ergonomic issues. A lot of it really starts. You want to call up that childcare worker solutions one in the modules. Once we get to it, it kind of give you a guide on how to use that. Okay, so these childcare kind of related issues really start in pregnancy. With a lot of women, some of them when we come into the clinic, they'll start to get carpal tunnel. Some of you probably know pregnancy, a lot more edema in your body. The edema, the extra fluid impacts the space and flow again of the wrist, all those tendons in the carpal tunnel, the median nerve pushes on the median nerve, causes pain and numbness in the wrists, along with other extremity issues related to edema. So it's almost like setting you up for an ergonomic problem before we've even had the child. The ligament laxity can make you vulnerable. A lot of women, as you know, have issues with balance. Their center of gravity is off, core is compromised. Plus, emotionally, they're losing sleep, going through a lot of mood changes, sets them up for a lot of stress. Once the child arrives, and it's kind of like snowballing. One of the things with pregnancy you learn pretty quickly. I think the story we're going to read next week really kind of captures that. There is no break. You have go through this traumatic thing of having this baby and having no sleep and all that, and then whammo, you have this little child. And again, there's no sleep, and it's just round the clock, endless kind of cycle and stress, which leads to ergonomic pain and issues and need for solutions. Depression, changed roles. You're so much focused on the child, you kind of neglect your body and all the pain going on with your body. How does this pain happen around childcare? And those of you who've worked in daycares know what I'm talking about. Just the constant positioning of the children around feeding, bathing, changing diapers, lifting, carrying, and all these repetitive motions that you're doing, awkward postures, forceful exertions. And babies, even more so than adults, they aren't easy to move. They're squirmy. They don't stay in place. It's not like, moving a sack of potatoes. So again, it's very challenging ergonomically, makes you very vulnerable towards potential injury. Okay, so we're going to kind of break down some of these bigger ones, and we'll get into all the particulars in the chart. Something you'll see a lot with people who work a lot in childcare or young mothers is something called mommy's thumb, or issues around the wrist. And this is a great photo showing it. Mommy's thumb is usually when caused by, they keep their thumb too abducted all the time. When they're lifting their child up or holding their child, the thumb right here is just apart like this. And the wrist is out of neutral. So she's flexed her wrist, and it's even deviated. So it's not good for the wrist, leads to potential pain. And then some solutions. When you're holding the baby, if you can see this picture, see how she's keeping her wrist in neutral? She's not flexing it. She's got pillows to help her position it right for feeding. Here down for feeding again. And obviously her thumb is abducted because she has to hold the milk bottle, but her wrist is a nice, and where's that thing? Wrist is right in neutral. Thumb is tucked in to a degree. It's not way out. So always think about that. The Decker veins is what that mommy's thumb leads to. The wrist. Boppies are good if you're not familiar with those. I didn't know what a boppy was. It holds the baby, supports the baby. Any kind of support for the baby, take the stress off your body, as you being the mother is a good thing. Holding the baby wrap your arm around the baby when holding the side of your hip rather than holding with under your arm bottom and flexing wrist up. So again, avoiding this kind of picture that we showed, wrapping in a different way. Just keep positioning, keep thinking wrist neutral, thumb tucked in is kind of the general rule of thumb. Strollers, a lot of issues around strollers because some people are spending a lot of time pushing their child around with strollers. You can imagine those people who jog with strollers with the baby in it. Leads to lots of issues around the neck, wrist, sort of upper back. And a lot of it, again, it comes down to the position of the wrist, like we talked about. This is too extended, these wrists, want them straight. You're getting vibration here, potentially. Thumbs, maybe abducted too much. Got to think about that. Here's a great example of how to do it, a solution. Straight wrist, thumb is adducted nicely. Have to size the stroller right. Getting at the height of their belly button is the ideal size. When you do your grocery store assignment, a cool thing to kind of do, it's very exciting. If you watch people with their grocery carts, of course, are static. They don't adjust, and everybody is different sizes. So some are sized right, and some are just awful. The grocery cart where they put their hands, like the stroller, should be around their belly button. And rarely is that the case. It leads to all kinds of compromised positioning. Relaxed shoulders, you can't see it, but a soft little bend in the elbows. And you may have to build things up or get this great strollers that have like bicycle kinds of wheels with shock absorbers so they're not bouncing and vibrating all the time. Positioning the baby, lifting the baby, the back, the wrists can really do a hard number on your baby, on your body. If you're doing this all day long, and young mothers are, childcare workers are, if you're working with infants especially, again, think about your wrist. Don't want to avoid the wrist extension. Here's a great picture of what not to do. She has this awful curve bending in the back. You think, well, how is she gonna pick up that baby safely without bending over? With a crib at this height, she can't. So you have to adjust that crib height, modify it, or get an adjustable crib. Again, keeping your thumbs in neutral and wrists in neutral. There's a really good picture of how to pick up a baby without hurting your wrists. Hands-free carriers. You look at this picture, and the first thing I think of, yeah, it's saving her wrists, but it's a lot of weight on the front of her body. A lot of these ergonomic solutions, someone's putting the stress from one part of the body to the other temporarily, so you have to kind of go back and forth, and what is the big issue at the moment, that sort of stuff. Constant problem solving and strategizing, really. Then if we go to our charts, these different solutions, kind of puts it all together for you. Again, this is a chart you really need to know really well for the midterm, because if you have a case around childcare, you're going to have problems, you need those solutions, need to kind of come to your mind. Some of them are pretty common sense. You can kind of think about it, especially if you get the concepts of tucking your thumbs in, keeping your wrists neutral, lifting right, and then how can you adjust the environment to do that? Get that stroller at height of the belly button, use the boppy kind of thing, adjustable crib, modifying the crib, rotating jobs is a good one, stretching obviously. We didn't talk much about sitting, but sitting is a big problem around childcare because you're sitting on the floor a lot, or you're sitting in these awful little child seats, which are really, really hard on your body. So support your back. When you're sitting on the floor, don't sit without support. So you want to sit against a wall or pillows or something. Avoid twisting when lifting. Stepped stools can be good. Table height, if you're working on table height or changing table, get that into the power zone. Varying your postures, proper lifting techniques. Have the children do as much as they can. Adult-sized chairs, obviously. Strollers can be a nightmare. Getting a child into a stroller without hurting your back may take two people to do that. And then the stretching and the exercises that we're kind of getting into with the Williamson stuff, depending on what's going on with the person. And then just lastly here, there's this little chart here that kind of shows you, see how she's sitting without any kind of support in a bad news on your back versus here. She's using the wall to help her, doing some stretches. Here she's doing the awful lift, which you do in the moment without even thinking, versus squatting, bending at the hips, keeping the load close. Twisting can be a problem too. If you're twisting your back all day long, it's really bad news. She's doing the changing table thing down here. More of this. Come at it straight. Avoid the twist. All right, that is that one.